So children, I'm going to explain you entire chapter number 4, that is elasticity of demand, with the help of slides. So children, first topic we'll talk about meaning of elasticity of demand. Before starting up with the meaning of elasticity of demand, let's do and relate this concept with law of demand. So law of demand tells us the consumer will respond to a price dropped by buying more, but if does not tell us how much more we are buying. Okay, so in the last chapter we have discussed about law of demand, and children, law of demand just tells you that whenever price is falling, demand will increase, and whenever price rises, demand will fall. But elasticity of demand tells you the degree of sensitivity of the consumer to a change in the price, and it is measured by the concept which is called price elasticity of demand. In other words, we can say elasticity of demand refers to the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity to change in any of its determinant. Right? Now see, elasticity of demand. Here it is written, elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of quantity demanded of a good to change in the price. Okay? Now, types of elasticity of demand. Children, price of the commodity, price of other commodity, and income of the consumer were the various determinants about which we have talked in the last chapter. It is a measure of how sensitive the quantity demanded of the commodity is to change in any of the factor influencing demand. There are as many different types of elastic demand as there are types of economic variable determining the demand. However, there are three main types of elasticities of demand. You can see in the slide. The number one is price elasticity of demand. Number two is income elasticity of demand. And number three is cross elasticity of demand. Of these three types of elasticities, price elasticity of demand is the most important one. Therefore, we'll discuss price elasticity of demand in detail, and cross and income elasticity will be discussed briefly in this chapter. Right, children? Now, as you can see, the first elasticity was price elasticity. So, what does price elasticity means? Children, the price elasticity of demand is a measure how much the quantity demanded of the commodity changes when its price changes. So, price elasticity of demand may be defined as the degree of responsiveness. Mind you, responsiveness is the keyword. Degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of the commodity in response to change in its price. By degree here we mean the rate of change. Therefore, more precisely, we can see price elasticity of demand refers to the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded of the commodity to a given percentage change in its price. Okay, you can see in the slide also it is written, price elasticity of demand measures the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of the good to a change in its price, and it is also defined as the ratio of proportionate change in the quantity demanded caused by a given proportionate change in price. So the basic difference between law of demand and elasticity of demand is that elasticity tells you about the degree of change, and the law of demand just tells you that there is a change whenever price changes. Right? Okay. Now, we'll talk about the price elasticity of demand in detail. So, price elasticity of demand measures how responsive consumers are to the price change. Elasticity is another word for responsiveness. Okay, so therefore the formula will be price elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Children, mind you, whatever is the reason for change in demand, that becomes the denominator, and here the reason is basically what? Price. So the denominator will be price. I am repeating again the formula. Formula for price elasticity demand will be percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Okay, so this was about price elasticity of demand. As I've already told you that we'll be talking about price elasticity of demand basically here in detail. So let's talk about the second topic, that is degrees of price elasticity of demand. Once again, elasticity of demand measures the measurement of responsiveness of one variable to the other variable. So X is functionally related to Y, X is dependent variable, Y is independent variable. Y means how change is going to affect the X, that is elasticity measured to it. And elasticity of demand is the percentage change of for a good A divided by percentage is independent variable. Children, variable can change. It can be price, it can be cross, it can be income. So it on the basis of this only the elasticities are of three kinds: price elasticity, cross elasticity, and income elasticity. Now, first, as we were talking about the price elasticity, so the price elasticity, I already told you the formula. The price elasticity, the formula will be percentage change in the quantity demanded of product X divided by percentage change in the price of product X. Children, here the products are same. The demand for the same product we are talking about here, and we are taking the price of that product only. As I told you the formula, percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. So similarly, here the percentage change in quantity demanded of X divided by original quantity demanded of X divided by change in the price of X divided by original price of X. Children, you need not to take the minus sign into consideration in this, because in your syllabus minus sign is eliminated. So need not to take that. Children, we will be talking about the numericals on the basis of this concept later. First, let's talk about the degrees of price elasticity of demand. And before that, you just do the revision of the formula. As I told you, elasticity of demand can be expressed as ED. ED is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. So if you will be writing it in the empirical form, numerical form, then it will be ED is equals to delta Q by Q into 100 divided by delta P by P into 100. Now let me tell you what is delta Q. Delta Q means change in quantity. Delta P means change in price. Q stands for original quantity, that is base quantity, and P stands for initial or base price. If you will be solving this equation, you will be getting delta Q by delta P into P by Q. Okay? Need not to worry, we will be talking about this later because we will be doing numericals later. You just need to know the formula here. Coming to the degrees of price elasticity of demand. Children, degrees of price elasticity demand is a very important concept, because I must say that this is the expected question for this year's examination. So there are 5 degrees of elasticity. Number 1, perfectly elastic. Opposite of perfectly, okay, so perfectly elastic, then opposite of elastic is inelastic. So second will be perfectly inelastic. Third will be relatively elastic. Fourth is relatively inelastic, and the fifth and the last is unitary elastic. Right? Now, we need to talk about the degrees. So, we should know what the degree of a particular elasticity of demand is. So, number 1 was perfectly elastic demand. So, perfectly elastic demand degree will be EP is equal to infinite. You can see this in the slide. Second, perfectly inelastic demand. Perfectly inelastic degree will be EP is equal to 0. Children, you can write EP, you can write ED also. Third, relatively elastic demand. EP or ED greater than 1. See, greater than 1. Fourth, relatively inelastic demand. EP will be less than 1. And the last is unitary elastic demand. So, degree will be EP is equal to 1. Children, you need to learn all the names, that is 5 degrees names as well as their degree. Once again, I am repeating. Perfectly elastic demand, degree will be EP is equal to infinite. Perfectly inelastic demand, EP is equal to 0. Relatively elastic demand, EP is greater than 1. Relatively inelastic demand, EP will be less than 1. Next is unitary elastic demand. So, EP will be equal to 1. Children, we need to talk about all these degrees in detail. Let me tell you what degree exactly means. The degree of responsiveness of demand for a commodity to change in its price may differ. To explain this phenomena of degree of elasticity, economists basically express price elasticity demand in the terms of numerical value. Thus, the price elasticity of demand may be expressed in terms of the numerical value, and the numerical value of price elasticity of demand ranges from 0 to infinity. You can see from 0 to infinity. In the terms of its numerical value, that is degrees of elasticity, there are 5 different kinds of price elasticity of demand. Right? So, these are those 5. You can see this in the slide. Now we need to talk about these degrees in detail. So the very first I am taking perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand, when we talk about perfectly elastic demand, children, we should know that the degree of perfectly elastic of demand was ed or ep is equal to infinite, and it is expressed in absolute terms. So perfectly elastic demand, when consumers are prepared to purchase all that they can get at a particular price but nothing at all at the slightly higher price, then the price elasticity of demand for a commodity is said to be infinite. In this case, a very small fall in the price causes a very small fall in the price causes the demand to increase to infinity. A demand curve of an infinite elasticity is known as perfectly or completely elastic demand curve. In this case, demand curve is perfectly elastic. Children, you can see this in the slide. There is a demand curve made. On x-axis, it's quantity demanded. On y-axis, it is price. Price remains constant here. Still, demand is increasing from OQ to OQ1. Okay, so you can see that a demand curve of an infinite elasticity is also known as perfectly or completely elastic demand curve. In this case, demand curve is perfectly elastic. Demand curve D in figure, which is parallel to x-axis, illustrates perfectly elastic demand. At the price OP1, nothing is demanded, but at a slight lower price OP, an infinitely large quantity is demanded. This is the extreme of upper limit of price elasticity. Case of perfectly elastic demands are extremely rare. It's a very very rare phenomena that even the price is constant, still demand increases. So you can see unlimited quantities of the commodity can be sold at the prevailing price. A negligible increase in the price will result in zero quantity demanded, and therefore the shape of the demand curve here will be a horizontal line parallel to x-axis, or you can say in the case of perfectly elastic demand, the demand curve will be horizontal demand curve, right?